Hey Trails Collective, this is Ian and Ellie here for the weekly rundown for May 27th, 2020. So the first thing, or kind of the biggest news for us, is that the trailscollective.com is now live. The framework for the site and the concept I created with a Wix platform in 2018, put it on the back burner for a little while and reapproached it late in 2019. It's been a lot of time and effort and resources, a lot of people helping along the way, but we're stoked that it's now live. So what I'd really hope for is if you could all go check out the trailscollective.com, share it in your own networks far and wide, and just explore what's on there. We'll still be making tweaks to the format, to the store, to adding more content, which will be continuous as we go. But I'm really excited about it. The intent is to really have a holistic cover of trail running in the Northeast and including the Virginias. So you'll find quite a bit on there. There'll be a master and filterable event calendar. Again, this 2020 in the year of COVID, that's a little bit thrown into chaos. But the framework is there for updating RDs. You can go in, find your race, claim your race, add photos, add media, add your map, and take ownership of that. Hopefully it'll be a pretty good calendar, which will only get better as we get more content up. It'll have these weekly rundowns pulling through in the archives of these. It'll have gear reviews as we do them, whether myself or a crew of reviewers. If you feel like you're somebody who really loves gear and really wants to dig in on a review, for sure let me know or reach out and maybe we can talk about what that might look like and try to get some gear in your hands to review, or just let you review something that you already have and love. It would be great to get more takes into the mix. It'll have a community tab for all of you who sign up and join the Trails Collective. You can list whether you're a coach or a photographer or just a runner or a subscriber to the platform. But it'll allow a filterable search if any of you out there maybe want to look for a coach in your area, or maybe a physical therapist, or something to that effect. And that may be a little scarce in the beginning here, but as the collective hopefully takes on and more people sign on, hopefully that becomes a pretty powerful tool. I also have a number of run specialty stores uploaded there. So if you have a store in your town, your community, particularly that's one that's involved in the trail world, reach out to them and let them know the Trails Collective is live. I may have already uploaded their core information into the platform. They just need to take ownership of it. And so for all of you out there, well, for me, I really can't say enough about shopping local where you can. So if you've got a great store, get them plugged in so other people can find them as well. We'll also have on the site message boards or forums. There's a number of you out there who maybe don't have Facebook, or you're maybe one of those pools that would rather not be on Facebook. And so maybe once a year you do the purge, where you'll maybe take yourself off. Only about 3 months later, those of us who are your friends will receive an event request from you with maybe a new profile picture with you sheepishly logging back on. And so I think the reality is that we really find a connection there, and community and dialogue and updates. And so my hope is to create a platform where that becomes possible, but maybe outside of Zuckerberg acquiring all your information to use for however he wants to use that. But it is an alternative, and it allows you something outside of the social media platform. So if you can, find your way to those message boards, start a thread, comment on a thread, and let's get those rolling. And that will allow me each week also to see what's really being spoken about or chatted about on those message boards as updates. We'll have e-commerce live as well. It's a tie-in from where I'm at here on the Finger Lakes Running Company in Ithaca. A chunk of our inventory is up and live there, and we'll hopefully continue to make that site a little bit better and more refined. So hop on there, poke around the site a bit, check it out. If you're somebody who has an idea for maybe a regular contribution or even occasional contribution, let us know, whether that be a video or a review or an interview or whatever that might be. Let us know, and maybe we can get you up on the collective site as well. So I'm excited about that. Check it out, and we will talk about that more, or I'll talk about it more in some videos to come. Next, a huge thank you to a friend, a longtime friend, Jeff Holbrook of Corning, New York. Jeff, thank you for being the literally first Patreon supporter of the Trails Collective. I didn't even have a chance to build out or finalize the Patreon support page and tiers, let alone plug it or put it out there before you found your way to it and signed on to support us. So for your support of all these years, Jeff, thank you so much. Thanks for continuing to grind it out on your own end in the trail and ultra world, just being a really positive and motivating factor for the various components of the community that you plug into. So thanks for your support, Jeff. I'm pretty stoked to get you some Trails Collective swag as part of the Patreon tiers as soon as it rolls off the production platforms in this next month or two. So thanks, dude. See what else this past week. I was given a heads up by another supporter, Grayce Gillette-Drummond Langheine. Thanks to you for continuing to send some updates my way when you think about it. But she cued me into a pretty remarkable event, slugging it out in Maryland. It's called the Broken Ladder. It's created by Trent Swanson of the Algonquin Ultras. And his concept was pretty simple. Start with 1 mile, and each day add a consecutive mile into the mix. And in the last runner standing format that we've been somewhat accustomed to, but maybe a new tweak on that. I'm just going to read one of Trent's comments post-event here. Trent said, "This has been such a fun, challenging few weeks riding the Broken Ladder wave. I've really enjoyed watching so many of you hit distance PRs for days, weeks, and months. So many grabbed a ladder they didn't think they could reach. So many pushed their bodies beyond what they thought they were capable of going. Both the women and the men in this extreme challenge crushed all expectations. Another shout out to our top 3 ladies. First, Thea Angelo. Second, Yekaterina Petrova. And third, Liz Kokoris. And to their third place gent, Hugh McMullen IV. So the top woman in the mix was Thea Angelo. She made it 27 days in, with Yekaterina Petrova hanging on through day 26. That gave Thea a 168 mile week, with a 119 mile week just the week before. That's tough. The victor of the event, who we connected, or I was able to connect with a bit today, Richard Wayshner. Richard finished 33 miles on the 33rd day on May 22nd. And while 33 miles may not be that much in isolation, when you add it up, it's also pretty crazy. So his final week capped out at a 210 mile week. The week prior was 161 miles, and the week before that, 112 miles. That's crazy. That's Gerry Lindgren miles right there.
Sometimes I get up at 4 in the morning and take off and run 88 miles for the day, go up to Mount Spokane or something, and then come back.
Richard, that's pretty crazy. And with runner-up, which was Michael Maddock. I'm going to post a video, just a teaser video that Richard sent my way today, right here.
Hi everybody, my name is Richard Wayshner. I am the last runner standing from the 2020 Broken Ladder Challenge. It was an event put on by Trent Swanson. He had us adding 1 mile each day to our distance. So day 1 was 1 mile, day 2, 2 miles, and then at the end, I finished out day 33 with a 33-mile run. There was a gentleman named Michael Maddox who was there with me right to the end, and he definitely helped push me through. And every day I was ready for him to stop, and I'm sure that he was ready for me to stop as well. And he was a great competitor, and also just somebody that I look forward to meeting once races open back up. being a former 16-year smoker, this definitely allowed me to kind of push my limits and hopefully motivate a couple other people to push their limits. Just because, of past situations doesn't mean that you won't have the opportunity to do something amazing. So hope to answer a couple questions and just shed some light on the day-to-day activities. Thanks.
Yeah, that's intense. So Richard's going to do a longer full-length interview with Ellie hopefully this week. And I think our plan will be to post it maybe next Friday on the Trails Collective site. And again, that will be under the Collective Wisdom and TC Interviews tab. This past week, Ellie interviewed and plugged on Friday the interview with Ben Nephew. If you haven't checked it out yet, go in and check it out. It's also on that on the Trails Collective site. This week, I think maybe she's going to plug an interview with Sarah Kais, which should be a great one to tune into as well. So to hear a bit more and go into the depths of really what that volume looked like for Richard and the crew, look for that video full length for next week. And so as I was just thinking about questions for that interview, I was just thinking how much that volume is. Some of the dark places that I can only imagine that an individual goes to in terms of just physical discomfort, mental darkness, and just the spiritual aspect that really requires. So I'm really looking forward to hear a bit about that next week, and while it's still fresh for Richard. So stay tuned for that. And on day 32, I just caught in one of the posts as I was scrolling through, he had posted a video, the acoustic version of Trent Reznor's version of the song Hurt. And so I don't know, I'm assuming most of you would have come across that song along the way, but if not already, check it out, as well as Johnny Cash's rendition of the song Hurt and the videos that go with those. I think the lyrics are pretty haunting, and I think that there's a lot of connection there for those of us who have chosen to go long in endurance events over the years. So in any case, check it out. So what else? On the FKT boards, let's get into those. Before I get in there, I want to mention another piece of media that maybe we missed a few weeks ago when it came out. I think it was episode 86 on the FKT podcast series, and it was with Sarah Connor. She was one who I've mentioned several weeks now for nabbing so many FKTs on the FKT boards. And it's a really nice 25-minute podcast in the FKT podcast series. And that's where I'm also getting my FKT data each week, is off of the FKT site. So a really well done site, pretty cool to check out. But I'm going to plug just a brief clip from that interview with Sarah.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. There's just so many women out there who are improving the times and setting new times. I honestly I'd like to mention them, because this is not just me out here in Connecticut. We have Jamie Miller, Jennifer Stack, Sally Campbell, Michelle O'Neill, and Kate Gillenow, and Mary Louise Timmermans, all in our area, just going out, and they've all gotten FKTs just in the month of April. Some of them like 3. So it's definitely not just me. This is I love it. It's sort of like cross country. It's it's individual sport, but it's also a team effort. And that's one of my favorite things about running. It's both.
And so I think that what really captured me in that brief clip, or that segment, was Sarah's just relaying the community connection and value of the crew of FKTers, particularly in her relative backyard in Connecticut. A really strong group of women that are out there really getting after it, and just the camaraderie that surrounds that. So the visual of somebody out solo on a trail going after an FKT, oftentimes unsupported, is fairly, lonely as a concept. But when you do consider, I think, what Sarah mentions, you, begin to, understand and grasp and relate to the community value of what goes into that. And also posting these FKTs, I'm hoping that it's also providing some inspiration to all of you to get out there and after it. Or maybe learn of certain segments that are in your backyard and to rekindle maybe a sense of competition, which many of us yearn for, especially in not having that in the form that we're used to. So hopefully it's good to be plugging some of these. So for the FKTs this past week, Connecticut continues to get out there and after the majority. I shouldn't say the majority, rather, leading the FKT boards in terms of states, really nationwide or even nations across the worldwide. It's pretty wild. So in Connecticut, Stefan Rodriguez posted a 2 hours 30 minutes on the Menenkatuk Trail. It was 15 minutes lower than the prior mark from 2015. Jeff Grant at 2:47 for a baseline mark on the 18-mile Quinnipiac Trail. Ryan Quick, 15 hours 45 minutes over the 50-mile CT portion, or the AT portion rather, in Connecticut. Tucker Groves, 33:24 over the Sunny Valley Trail. Deb and Scott Livingston shaving 13 minutes off the only 2-month-old mixed unsupported mark for the 18-mile Quinnipiac Trail. And Matt Badukian shaving nearly 30 minutes off the only 3-week-old mark set by Justin Kowski over the 16-mile Ives Trail. It's been the third lowering this year alone. In Massachusetts, Kristen and Timothy Ritchie established the baseline mixed gender time on the 40-mile Robert Frost Trail in 7:55. Ian Ridgway continues to exercise his solid fitness, putting together a nice urbanish route around Worcester and Mass with the East-West Trail and an opening mark of 2:17 for the 23K circuit. Lindsay Eisenbach established a female unsupported baseline of 3:13 on the Blue Hills Skyline Trail, and then doubled down just I think a day or two later to set a women's baseline mark on the 23K Monoosnock Ridge Trail in 2:22. That's had some action already several times this season as well. New Hampshire, Kelsey Rex put up a baseline women's mark of 2:02 on the 9.5 mile Moat Mountain Traverse. It's a route outside of North Conway that Ben Nephew, I think, originally posted, and maybe is one of his favorites over the years, just based on how many times he hit it. And the route looks and sounds absolutely beautiful. Running maybe along a ridge, has a really nice waterfall and swimming hole on one side, and it's now entered my bucket list of places to hit and cover and run and explore when I'm through that area, hopefully this fall. New York, Aaron Newell put up a baseline mark of 2:06 for the Whiteface Esther connection. From getting up there on my own, mapping for and staging the Whiteface Sky races over the years, I know that that's a really beautiful ridge line. So hopefully, Aaron, you had a pretty beautiful day to be out there. Kelly McDonald established a women's unsupported baseline of 11:22 for the 80-kilometer Cranberry Lake circumference or trail route. Also just another really beautiful area. Hopefully you had a great day, Kelly. Jamie Hobbs set the mark for the Finger Lakes Trail Letchworth section, new baseline of 4 hours 28 minutes. And Elise Mordo set a baseline women's unsupported time of 3:10 for the 31K Nassau Suffolk Greenbelt Trail. And capping off New York this past week, Stephen Estramera and Jill Quagliano, I'm going to get this, Quaglino, there we are, set the baseline of 4:41 for the Five Sisters Loop around Bear Mountain State Park. On PA, Jonathan Scovell set a mark of 5:08 over a section of AT between Scott Farm and the Doyle Hotel. On Rhode Island, Matt Walker took an hour off the 2019 mark on the 14-mile Arcadia Trail in 1:42. And in Virginia, Eduardo Pantoja set the mark for the west to east 199-mile Mason-Dixon Trail in 54 hours and 35 minutes. Pretty impressive, and setting off or into what will be a virtual run of that longest day run in Virginia this year. And Eric Thornton, last one in the FKT lineup here, set a baseline mark of 3 hours 17 minutes for the 28K Bull Run, a Coquin Trail. So nice work to all of you that got out there and after it this week. And with that, I'm going to turn to Ellie in the podcast and media news world. Take it, Ellie.
Hey, Trails Collective, Ellie here, and let's talk about media. Today, of course, we're going to start with the Connecticut Trail Ultra Cultra podcast. They put out 2 episodes this past week. The first one is part of their Cultra Personality series with Rob Rusty Red Wagon Sawyer. Rob Sawyer lives on a horse farm in eastern Connecticut with his family and his now famous red dog Rusty, who also joined Rob in his first trail running experience, a whole half marathon. Didn't start out slowly, did we? They also talk about Rob competing in horse racing competitions of 30, 50, 100 miles. It was a really interesting episode, and they mention a couple of other various podcasts throughout the show, and it was great to get to know another member of the Cultra community. The second episode was with our very own Ian Golden, and they describe him as Ian is a runner's runner. He's a bit of a polymath, as well as he's the man behind Red Root Racing, my racing team, as well as his newest endeavor, the Trails Collective, which is what you're watching right now. It's a weekly video rundown of what's going on in the Northeast Trail and Ultra series. So later in the episode, I'm actually going to come back to this because I think we need to give Ian a little bit of a highlight reel of the various changes in his appearance over the past couple years. So don't miss out. The reason I was reminded of this is because they mentioned that Ian ran for Congress a couple years ago, and I remember that clean-cut, fresh-shaven man. So we're going to revisit that at the end of this series. The Pain Cave, Jay sat down with TV and music and show running legend Andy Greenwald. Jay sat down with Andy Greenwald to talk about podcasting, interviewing, running a TV show, and his newfound love of running. Andy Greenwald is a respected TV critic and writer on some of TV's most acclaimed shows called Legion and Cat's Cradle in the 2010s. Now he's won acclaim as the creator and showrunner of Briar Patch, a his 10-episode adaptation of a classic noir thriller. Jay continues to expand my knowledge with his very diverse guests, and I continue to be amazed by his various interests. It reminds me of myself and how I really can just read anything and go off on tangents, and so Jay's wonderful, and I also had the opportunity to interview him for the Trails Collective interview series, so that interview should be out in the coming weeks, and you'll really enjoy it. Hamstrings and Heartstrings, Chris and I put out a podcast last Thursday where we discussed the little moments in running that just make it like the special thing that we all know and love. Chris talked about finishing a long run and then that post-run nap after you've taken a shower and ate all the food. He loves that. I talked about how I really feel great when I make it home before my bowels betray me. And Chris rightly said, it's like a little victory, and it really is. And I mean, if you've ever had that feeling, you know. We ended the show talking about pretzels and dark chocolate. So stay tuned. It was a really fun episode. And I encourage you to think about all the little moments in running, not races, not anything FKT specific, but just like little things that you just really appreciate during your runs. Chris also put out a podcast on his other podcast called Running Inside Out with Phil Nesbitt. Yes, the Phil Nesbitt of Tri-Top Ultra Running fame. I've chased Phil at Many on the Jenny for the past 2 years, and I continue to marvel at his unique outfit choices and nutrition. He carries a very large Slim Jim in one hand, a regular sized water bottle in the other, and I assume that he stores that water bottle in the Tri-Top, which is why at each aid station, the zipper on the Tri-Top just keeps getting lower. I mean, it's either that or he's really excited that I'm behind him. I don't know. But you will not want to miss this one. I have waited for a while to hear Phil Nesbitt. Life is Trail Running put out a video focusing on the virtual fun run that they did for Finger Lakes Running Company, which did raise over $15,000. So don't miss out on that one. It's really pretty. For the Trails Collective Media this past week, I wanted to take a minute to highlight a couple videos that both Ian and I put out. Last week, I put out a really special episode with Ben Nephew. I was so fortunate to have an hour-long conversation and pick the brain of a runner that I've been fascinated by for a while. Ben Nephew is the king of the FKTs and has many wins and records to his name. He holds a 1:11 half marathon PR and a PhD in biology from Tufts. You do not want to miss this episode as we dive deep into physical training, why runners slow as they age, and why Ben just loves doing all that gnarly shit. And there is some good footage on that video. So, and also head to Marathon Peak Fitness's channel for even more. There's tons of Ben videos, and rightly so. He's just amazing. Ian put out a video about the Ultra Aspire Momentum Vest version 1. He brings us into the video, and then James Lampman breaks down the specs of this rad, really cool looking vest from Ultra Aspire. He's been using these packs for years, and with tons of 100-milers under his belt, he shows us all what to stuff into it, and so that you can have everything you need to be out all day. I kind of wanted to take a second and talk about this because I think running technology, especially in race packs, shorts, and other gear, is going to change in the near future, I think, because when races come back, I think vests and shorts, things like that, will need to be able to carry more things. The reason I think that is because I think there's just going to be limited aid, less crew, less pacers, and I think more events will be grassroots and smaller. So you're going to need to be able to carry 20 to 30 ounces of water, a lot of snacks, because there isn't going to be aid for 10 to 15 miles. And arguably that's where our sport started. So we're heading back and maybe doing a little bit of a recycle, but I look forward to seeing all the innovations of packs and things in the future, because they will need to be light and fast for the speedies, but also carry a lot of things because we need to eat and drink when we're running. And all right, so let's transition into the segment where we appreciate the many different variations of Ian's facial hair. So here we go. All right, so I just swept the internet to find every photo that I could find of a variation of Ian's facial hair. So let's take this journey. So the first one, it looks like, he could be about, between the ages of 15 and 25. The guy next to him kind of has a little bit of a Saved by the Bell-esque look to him, but that's probably young Ian. That was the first picture on Facebook. So here we are. The next one, all right, that looks like a cross-country team style. I really like Ian's hand gestures, his shorts. I probably have a pair of those too. Yeah, all those guys are looking pretty strappy. I bet they were fast. Yeah. Another cross-country photo from Ithaca College. Ian was recently inducted into the Ithaca College Cross Country and Track Hall of Fame, which is pretty impressive for our local guy. But does he have blonde hair in that one? I'm impressed. Yeah, and I like the beanie and the thumbs up for the guy looking at me. Yeah, they were all looking different directions. It must have been a hard day out there. Ian, I wonder if that is an orange, but we got a little bit more hair going on there, and a nice Run Rabbit Run shirt. I didn't know he ran that, but you know what? I'm learning a lot of new things about Ian right now. He's actually sitting in the old store, which, rest in peace, I love that store. It was great. I was there very often. All right, we have a picture of the kids. Oh, this is so nice. What a postcard photo. Now I understand, Sherry probably was swept off her feet by a look like that. All right, we are getting into the longer hair. This is probably the only time I've ever seen Scotty without a beard, but it looks like Ian's picking up the slack. Wonder what they're talking about. Don't know, but it looks like they're at Ithaca Beer, so it was probably a good time. Everybody should check that out when it reopens. Okay, we now have a little bit of a long hair going there. I wonder if he is thinking about donating to Locks of Love. You never know. I mean, it's great. Yeah, that's wonderful, Ian. Just comb, use conditioner. Similar style. I'm guessing it was a little bit chillier out there. Scotty's got a beard going on him, and Elizabeth is kind of in cold weather gear, so it looks like it must have been chillier. So I guess Ian must feel a little bit like he's got to keep the hair growth for warmth. Okay. Oh, I love this. This is a great view. And Ian, that's a lovely look. I appreciate that. A little scruff, some hair, but you're not going to be too hot. Repping that MPF RNR singlet. Those were classy. I kind of need a new one. All right, Ian and Yassine, two legends meet. Yes. Oh, again, really, really sharp look right there, Ian. I gotta say, Yassine, his 1,000-watt smile is just a little bit dimming the glow of your headlamp, but beautiful, beautiful. Okay, guaranteed healthcare for every New Yorker. This was before, so Ian was running, but this was before, I bet, he decided he needed to shave his face for running for Congress. So we'll get to that. Those are coming. Okay, here's the first one of a shaved Ian and his team. I went to a couple of events as well, and it was really, really fun. And look at Ian, is freshly shaven, and he looks about 10 years younger. Back to those that cross-country clean-shaven look. Okay, I forgot about this one, but I had to throw it in there. That's a young Ian. And yeah, who thought he was going to be running for Congress in 40 years, 30 years, whatever. It's this beautiful, beautiful picture. Throwback Thursday. Okay, and I think that we needed to end on this photo that I remember distinctly seeing around town and being like, who is that man? Is that Ian's younger brother? I don't know, but it was Ian, and I think he looks really sharp and a great face for Congress, for New York, and if he ever runs again, I vote for that guy. All right, that's going to conclude this throwback into the memory of the various stages of Ian's facial hair and his run for Congress. So thank you, Cultra, for reminding me of that wonderful 6-month period. And that's the end.
Thank you, Ellie. And so the week ahead, typically there'd be a number of events that I'd brief you on that were coming up, or maybe new event registrations that are opening. But again, that's a little bit thrown to the wind this year. So we're just going to plug one that's starting this week. It'll run between June 1st and June 24th. Is the kickoff of the Quar Run Teen Trail 50K in Front Royal, Virginia, put on by the Adventure Enablers. And you can sign on at adventureenablers.com, or you can check out more information there, and we'll plug in the show notes the registration page for Ultra sign up here. And I think this is a piece where we continue to see the growth and the evolution of the virtual run space. So this event fee, as an example, is one that's costs $60. For the $60 virtual event, entrants get a Adventure Enablers buff, as well as a rental of a tracking chip, which I imagine comes with a bit of a deposit there on the chip. But it's just interesting to think. I've been an event director for, I don't know, over 10 years, and I don't know how many events I've directed, quite a number over those 10 years. And I've been one that really, I think, celebrates the runners really coming together, the community of it in so many ways. And that's really what I thrive on, and that's what's meaningful to me. So I haven't really jumped into the virtual space as an RD just yet, and I may or I may not. It hasn't necessarily been my thing, but I've also been too busy to really process it in this time. But in some of these virtual events, it's just wild. I mean, you can basically, as an RD or an event director, shave off the most of your expense sets, as well as the biggest stresses of the event, whether it be recruiting volunteers and organizing the volunteers, whether it be the course marking and hoping that the course marking stays in place, or the sweeping, or the permits, and the or trying to get all the swag together, and hopefully you don't have overruns. And there's just so many. I mean, you can go down the line of so many things and so many big stressors that are on an event director's plate. I think some number of years ago, I think I looked at a study that was just ranking some of the most stressful jobs that are out there. and I don't know what it was, maybe it was in the top 5 or maybe top 10, was event directors, and not just running events, but event directors at large. If you haven't directed an event, you can probably imagine, but it's a very stressful endeavor. There's a lot of wonderful pieces that come out of it, very rewarding, but there's a lot of stress. And so for the virtual events, you can basically eliminate most of that. And in some of these that I'm seeing, it's crazy. It's a much higher profit margin than I'm familiar with. I mean, we look at the race across Tennessee right now that Laz is putting on. I don't know how many event entrants are registered right now, 6,000, 8,000. As of maybe a week or two ago when there were some articles written on it, I think just race entry fees alone were over $1 million. And I think that a good chunk of that is being donated to charitable organizations, but I think that's just a chunk. And so that's an insane amount of money coming through. But even if we look at some of these local ones, the quarantine one that's starting, the expense sets, I imagine, for some of what the entrants are getting, I don't know, $10, $15 of that $60 registration fee. Maybe some of that profit margin will go to charitable organizations, which I'm seeing a good bit of during this COVID crisis. But just to be seen whether that continues as a model and whether it builds and whether that's just kind of the new norm. For event directors that can put it on, there's still for sure some work there. And if they can make it work and they can get enough entrants that are worth it to them, then by all means, man, kudos to them and rock on. That's awesome. But I guess we'll see. But for the quarantine 50K, one of their expense sets is using the rental of a tracking chip. So that's offering back in the possibility of more of the competitive angle. So each entrant will get out there and post their track, and then you can just see where you fall next to others. Now, whether that's necessary in this day and age of most people having their own devices and uploading GPS tracks, pretty much anybody with a smartphone can make that happen. I'm not sure, but it's kind of cool and gives you the opportunity to really stack yourself against others. So check it out. Link will be plugged here. Looks like a beautiful course that's laid out in Front Royal. Let's see. Upcoming also this week, Wednesday evenings at 8, streaming live on the Trails Collective Facebook page, is Trail Runner Trivia with Aaron Stredney. So check it out, 8 o'clock this Wednesday evening. Aaron, thanks for taking that on and making it happen each week. It's pretty awesome. So hop on there and test your knowledge. And then let's see. Also look for the interview that'll hopefully drop on Friday, I think with Sarah, with Ellie. And then for all of you out there who are giving us tips maybe on things that are happening in your neck of the woods, keep it coming. And I'd still really like to receive more clips from individuals out there. How you're doing, what you're up to, what you're looking forward to, what's shaking in your community. Maybe putting together a short video of a beautiful day on the trails for you and what you're looking forward to in 2020. Maybe sharing an experience with one of your virtual events or runs that you've been doing. But for sure, send them our way, and we'd like to hear them, and we'll plug them if we can. So thanks for joining us this week for the Trails Collective Weekly Rundown. Again, I'm pretty stoked to have launched this week, thetrailscollective.com. So find your way there, and really appreciate anything you can do to pass the word and get it out there. All right, talk to you next week. See ya!